Okay, so happy International Nurses Day. So this week we celebrate all nurses. I'm going to start off with a little bit of some history about Nurses Day. So this is Florence Nightingale. So she's the one who really started off with the Nursing Day. And there's a saying here from her saying, nursing is an art. And if it is to be made an art, it requires an exclusive devotion, as hard a preparation as any painter's or sculptor's work. Sorry, just one second. Okay, so Florence Nightingale, she was born actually today in 1820. A lot of people called her the Lady with the Lamp. So she was a British nurse, a social reformer, and a statistician of modern nursing. She experienced a lot of nursing, and she did some nursing during the Crimean War. The Crimean War, which began in 1853, was between the British Empire and the Russian Empire. Thousands of British soldiers were sent to the Black Sea, and supplies were quickly becoming scarce. By 1854, no fewer than 18,000 soldiers were admitted into military hospitals. And at that time, there were no female nurses allowed or stationed in the hospitals in Crimea due to poor reputation of past female nurses. But because there was an uproar about neglect of their ill and injured soldiers and lacking sufficient medical needs and attention due to being terribly understaffed, and not to mention the appalling unsanitary and inhumane conditions these patients were living under, Nightingale received a letter from the Secretary of War, her name is Sidney Herbert, and he requested her assistance and asked her to organize a group of nurses to come up and tend to the sick and fallen soldiers in the Crimea. So Florence gathered 34 of her nurses, and they all made their way there to the hospital. The conditions were so horrible. The hospital sat on top of a large cesspool, which contaminated the water and the hospital building itself. The patients laid there in their own excrements on stretchers strewn throughout the hallways. There were rodents and bugs that were running all over the place. They were running out of most basic supplies, such as bandage and soap and things like that. And as the number of wounded and ill soldiers increased. And then because of the unsanitary place, more soldiers were dying from infectious diseases. So Florence, she quickly saw how unsanitary the hospital was, and she quickly started making changes to improve the sanitary conditions to the hospital. She produced hundreds of scrubs, brushes, and asked the least injured patients to start cleaning the inside of the hospital, scrubbing from top to bottom. And as she herself spent every wakening minutes throughout the night caring for all the soldiers. She moved in the dark with a lamp, making her rounds. And that's how her nickname became the Lady with the Lamp. And she would make her rounds all night long, and she would attend and care for to all her patients. Her work reduced the hospital's death rate by 2/3. She also improved the quality of the patient's hospital. She also improved the quality of the patient's hospital stay by providing proper meals for patients with special dietary requirements. She's established a laundry room for clean linens for patients, and she also instituted a classroom and library for patients' intellectual stimulation and entertainment. So once the war was resolved in 1856, Florence returned to her childhood home, where she was greeted by the Queen, who awarded Nightingale's work by presenting her with an engraved brochure that came to be known as the Nightingale Jewel, and granted her a prize of $250,000 from the British government. So with that money, she funded the establishment of the St. Thomas Hospital and the Nightingale Training School for Nurses in 1960. So her efforts throughout all these years, her efforts to reform healthcare greatly influenced quality of care in the 19th and 20th centuries. So thanks to Florence Nightingale, nurses were no longer frowned upon by the upper classes as they once were, and had come to be viewed as an honorable vocation. Also in 1908, at the age of 88, she was conferred the Merit of Honor by King Edward, and in May of 1910, she received a congratulatory message from King George on her 90th birthday. So Florence Nightingale then fell ill in 1910 in August 13th, and died in her home in London. So she was at the age of 90. So that's a little back history of Florence Nightingale. And it just shows how much influence she has had on today's nurses. So nurses today, it's important to know that nurses, what they do. Not only have nurses adopted the most fundamental components of nursing through the views and the education of Florence Nightingale, but nurses today have also expanded their role as caregivers by including more to their tasks, such as being a good communicator. Being a good communicator, that entails nurses to be prepared to be able to collaborate with the healthcare team to effectively perform treatments and procedures. Thus, nurses manage patient care. They ensure cohesive and coordinated care for successful patient outcomes. They're a holistic caregiver, which is a healthcare that should address a patient's cultural, spiritual, and mental needs. Increasing diversity in a growing patient population requires nurses to demonstrate cultural awareness and sensitivity. Patients may have specific needs and preferences due to their religion or gender. For example, nurses need to be respectful of and knowledgeable about diverse backgrounds while remaining vigilant in providing quality care. Nurses are instructors. Technology goes hand in hand with healthcare, and providers are using new types of machines and applications every day. So medicine is becoming personalized, requiring nurses to instruct patients about medical apps that can enhance traditional care. Patients can now use apps to monitor their glucose, track their blood pressure, or access helpful information. Nurses are also specialists. Many patients are older with multiple, multifaceted health conditions. So by choosing the appropriate medical specialization, nurses can address complications related to diabetes, obesity, heart problems, kidney diseases, and dementia. And of course, nurses are researchers as well. Nurses use research to deliver care. They gather and analyze data to glean insights they can apply to facilitating patient care and pinpointing best practices. So there are many titles to just, as opposed to just being a nurse. Here I have a video clip. It's about 15 minutes long, and it's just to show nurse a day in life, nursing at Michigan. So it's just all these different types of nurse, and they talk about their day at work.
With this particular job, you know, they want to say textbook, but sometimes things don't work in that particular way. So you have to always expect the unexpected and be ready. That's what I love about my job too. That I do. This is the life of a nurse. We always have to be thinking one step ahead.
So Natalie is an 18-year-old. She had a bone marrow transplant, and today she's going to go home. So it's kind of a big deal. There's a lot of teaching involved. So we're going to do her own Neupogen shot today, which is a sub-Q injection. And so she's pretty excited about doing it all on her own. We've already talked about she's going to go home on some IV fluids and taking care of her central line and things like that. So we're just going to review things like dressing changes, cap changes, flushing it. I've known Natalie since she was initially diagnosed, which was probably about a year and a half ago. So almost as long as I've been working here. And so she relapsed, and so things have come full circle. I actually admitted her when she relapsed, and now I'm sending her home after the transplant. So she's also kind of, excited that, we've done this whole journey together.
So we're gonna go over to pre-op right now, and I'm gonna check to see which bay the patient's in. After that, then we'll go see the patient. We're gonna check consent, check any allergies, talk to the patient and give them a brief description of what's gonna happen next. Usually anesthesia and a pre-op nurse is also in the room. So we just checked in the patient. Everything is fine, and she'll be coming back to the room with anesthesia when we're ready. Currently, we are going to count any sponges and all sharps. We have everything already set up. We set everything up before the patient comes in the room so that it is smooth. When the patient comes in the room, we don't have to do anything but tend to the patient. I'm just going to chart right now that we've done counting and any other charting that I can get done.
The first time I met John was probably a few months ago when he was first diagnosed. And I had taken care of him, I think, when he was first going to be starting treatment. When a family receives the initial diagnosis, it can be really tough. And a lot of times there's not really much you can say. A lot of times it's best just to kind of let them be with their family and talk with each other and grieve with each other. And it's always good for the nurse to be there and to offer comfort. I mean, I'm doing pretty well with it so far, and I know that there's been nurses on the floor that have been here for like 20 or so years, and I don't know how they do it, but hopefully I can be like them one day.
So as charge, I'm responsible for admits and discharges that come into the SICU, monitor the patients in relation to how their disability is, if they're a good fit for maybe a double, then maybe they have to be singled now because they're too sick to be doubled. So I can pull a nurse out of one assignment, kind of shuffle assignments around. And then as charge, I'm also backup rapid response. So if rapid response is on a call, I will field the second call. And if there's a third call, then we pull somebody from ECMO or somebody that's not quite as busy.
As a charge nurse, I keep close contact with our nurse practitioners and our advanced practice team, our doctors, and our residents to make sure that everyone's on the same page and we know what patients we're expecting, what patients we're trying to get out, and just make sure that that process flows smoothly. Like I said, when I'm in charge, I feel like I'm the bed manager, I'm a clerk, I'm a tech, a nurse, and it's all really good.
So our patient that we had to travel with needed to go down for a head CAT scan. She came to us previously, and we had the first one, but we needed to get another one to compare for the two because we don't have good neural functions on her. And when they're on ECMO, it takes a whole crew of everybody to work together to get them down there. So we have to make sure we have our ECMO specialist with us, our fellow respiratory therapy, and then the two nurses and maybe even a tech to go along.
People have all different kinds of issues, different kinds of backgrounds, and they all kind of culminate here, and we have to help bring them along through this very difficult time. You know, when you have heart surgery or any other major surgery in the ICU, it's a very difficult time to handle emotionally, physically. So what I like is just kind of being able to help people through that.
My grandmother was a nurse. Both my mother and my father were both nurses. I never liked Barbies or any of that kind of thing, but if somebody did give me a doll, I was giving it fake shots and putting bandages on and trying to take the blood pressure with me. I knew it. I always knew that I wanted to be a nurse.
Well, one thing I do, especially in a bigger facility like this, there's definitely a large volume of patients. And one thing I will do is I'll try to get to know patients a little more, and it humanizes them a little bit. That kind of helps me to put in perspective that each person that comes through here has a different story that is unique.
My little brother actually was diagnosed with meningitis at a young age, bacterial, and he was in the hospital growing up for 8 years and just in and out. And so I pretty much lived in the hospital, and I think that I was just so comfortable in the hospital that that's honestly like what I kind of had a passion for, and seeing the nursing care that my brother got really did give me the motivation to go to nursing school.
Sometimes in simulation experiences, you know, people just kind of look at a lot of different things and they think they're here to just view it and not play an active role. So, and some of that I get from being an ACLS instructor, because you're setting up scenarios, and you, our theory has always been, as a part of the American Heart Association, to, you know, role play, have people role play, so that you're not just pretending you're doing compressions, that you're actually doing high quality compressions and actually doing what you do it as a call. And as silly as it can seem for some people, I think when they get, you know, in a real life situation, you know, it is more realistic than their, you know, practice.
The kids are kids first and sick kids second or third or fourth. They're really not interested in being sick. They're really just here being kids. They want to go to the playroom, they want to do this and that. And then the teenagers, that's less true, or the young adults, but you really get to know the kids and the families, and you get to be really involved with them. And it's not just the kid you're taking care of. You really are involved with generations, and you get to interact with everybody, and you're really taking care of the whole family unit. It's not just about your patient at all, ever.
So right now we're going to get ready to go get one of our patients that had to have a tandem placed in along with the balloon pump, because they went into what we call a cardiogenic shock. So we're going to go get him and take him upstairs.
The patients that come into this unit have lots of different problems. You never get bored. If you think your learning is done, then you haven't learned all there is to learn.
I transitioned to a charge nurse role for 4 to 5 years, and then now in the last month have transitioned into the clinical supervisor nurse role here. I'm available for our patients and their families and for the staff. My goal is to be the ultimate mentor for everyone and be an advocate for our patients and their families.
When I was in high school, I had a different career path that I was going to go down. I was going to do occupational therapy or sports medicine. And my mom actually was rushed to the ER for a brain aneurysm and was flown to U of M. How the nurses interacted with her and interacted with her family really touched me and made me want to change my career path and become a nurse. And that's kind of what stuck with me. It made me realize that, you know, this is what I want to do. I want to make that impact on somebody else.
The fabulous part is I get to bring the treatments and the resources of the university out to the population, out to people who have never had access to that before, and to other nurses and to other physicians who are like thrilled that we're able to come out and implement the care before they ever make it here to the university. So it's a great feeling to be able to take the Michigan difference out there and, you know, and provide it before they're ever even transported here.
Well, the one positive thing about the ER is that doctors are right next to nurses, who are right next to the paramedics, who are right next to the clerks. So we all work together, and we're right next to the patients. So we're constantly working together to help the fastest and in the best way. So it's really nice to know that you constantly have the support of your team within 15 feet of you at all times.
We have a lot of people around here to support us, and I think that the nurse is kind of the center of it, because the docs will come and talk to you, the nurse practitioners or advanced practice team, any different members will come talk to you, respiratory therapy is talking to you, PT, OT, everyone's coming to you to ask questions as the nurse, and you need to know what's going on with your patient so you can keep everyone informed and try and make sure they all have the same information. So it's important though, because it definitely helps us provide better care for the patients.
I came to work at University of Michigan after being a patient of Dr. Beauvais. I had a congenital heart defect that wasn't diagnosed until after I had my kids. So I came here and was up on PC2 as an adult, and had a nurse who very much took care of me. I really realized that what nursing wasn't. It is drips, and it is skills, and it is all the things that we do. But it isn't really that our families remember. It's hearing who they are, knowing what they need. And I think that's probably my favorite part of working with pediatrics, because there's a lot of opportunity for that.
The families and the kids are so great to work with, and it's always changing. There's always new things to learn. It's not repetitive in any way. And we take care of the same kids for sometimes years, so they're like part of your family after a while. You get to know them really well, and you look forward to seeing them, and they look forward to seeing you.
The nurse is the constant voice in that round. They know the patients, they know the families, they know the idiosyncrasies related to the families and the patients, and they're able to articulate that. They help to be the voice of the patient and the family when the family can't speak or when the patient can't speak. And so having that constant voice really improves patient care and patient outcomes, and we've seen that in our statistics here in the surgical intensive care.
She's my senior. She taught me everything I know. So yeah, she is really good at her job.
Oh my God, they are really taking. I was joking. We have a lot of fun here. That's why.
I did say it's entertaining every day.
It is. Learn something new every day.
Every day.
Lots of respect from our patients. They appreciate us.
Rachel and I both got cards last week, and I got amazing and she got wonderful. So our family debate at home has been, is it better to be wonderful or amazing?
That's right.
That was our conversation this week.
Grandpa said wonderful, Grandma said amazing.
Yeah.
When we used to do pediatrics over here, there was a case that really, we had a patient that was burned 100% of her body. And we knew that she wasn't going to live for very long, but to hold her hand and make sure that she's not going to die alone. You may see somebody's last moments on earth here, and hopefully we can make a difference. Sorry.
Ever since I was a little girl, I've always wanted to be a nurse. So I like coming to my job every day. I really love what I do. Knowing that when I'm coming in here that I'm going to take care of someone and hopefully make a difference in someone's day is what gets me up. I rarely leave my seat. I may take a lunch, I may not. Because it's my responsibility for 12 hours to care for her.
Okay, so I just want to show you this video because I think it kind of shows us all that there's a lot that goes behind nursing. And you know, they hold a lot of different titles behind, subtitles behind nursing, right? There's a lot that you need to do. So what it takes to be a good nurse. So, you know, you have to have an effective communication skills. You need to be a good problem solver, great interpersonal skill. You need to have the ability to handle stress. You need to be detailed oriented. You need to have the empathy. You need to be a good advocate. You need to be flexible. Keep up with evidence-based practice because you know, nursing practice changes all the time. There's always new things to learn in the science world. There's high physical stamina that you need to be able to deal with. You need to be a caring person and an honest person. You need to have good self-awareness, the willingness to serve and to lead. Critical thinking is very important, and last but not least, you need to have a lot of patience. And these are just some of, you know, the qualities that a good professional nurse needs to have. So in conclusion, why should we celebrate nurses? Because nurses are the backbone of medical care. Nurses are repeatedly ranked the most trusted profession. Even when they are not working, they're nurses, they're nursing friends and family. And they have earned it and they deserve to be celebrated. Just a quick story about how the nurse friends and family, even when they're not at work, it's a little personal story of mine, is for example, my father a few years ago had a massive heart attack at a family reunion that we had. Thankfully, a cousin of mine is a nurse, and another cousin of mine is a pediatric, emergency, an ambulance driver. Sorry, but I can't think of the word. Anyway, and thankfully they were both there, so they were able to quickly attend to my dad right away, and they were able to call the ambulance, and so they were able to help my dad while they waited for the ambulance, and because of them, he is here today. So it's just to show you that they were not at work, but they used their nursing skills at the time, and because of them, you know, my dad is still here. So thank you to my cousins, of course. So I hope you guys enjoyed this this presentation about what it is to be a nurse, and it's just to show you why we should celebrate nurses. They do so much, and they deserve to be acknowledged. So that is my presentation for today. If you have any comments or any questions, there is a chat bar at the bottom, so please feel free to message me if you have anything to add. Okay, so thank you for joining, everyone, and I hope you enjoyed this little presentation. Hope you all enjoy this wonderful day. It's nice and sunny, and have a great rest of the day. Bye.